What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Today, I'm going over a 4 book series, soon to be 5, that everybody knows about. It's the Hunger Games series by Suzanne Collins. Let's just jump right into it. So, first of all, if you literally have been under a rock and you don't know what the Hunger Games is, it's a dystopian sci fi series that so many people have known and loved. But I'm going to jump into my review of it because 2024 was the first time I've read any of them. I have seen the movies, so I can say I did watch the movies first and then read the book second. Well, first of all, how did I get here? My one of the book clubs that I'm in, we elected the Hunger Games to be one of the picks of the month. And I was excited. Like, I had already seen the movies. I knew I liked the movies. I knew the plot, the storyline, and everything, but I had never read the books. So, like, I feel like it was due time. Well, we only selected book 1, but in true fashion, naturally, I read all 4 of them because, like, why not? One, I had watched all the movies, so I wanted to make sure I read all the books. And then 2, I know that Hamage's story is coming out in March 2025, so I wanted to be prepared for that so that I can then read that book when that one came out as well. What I can say is, overall, I liked the entire series. It was good. It was good. I see why it became a movie adaptation. I see why so many people like it. I feel like if I would have read this when it first came out, I would have also liked it. And I liked it now as an adult. But I can say that I liked it. Like, I would rank them in the order of publication. So I would start with book 1, then go, down. So I'll start with The Hunger Games being my favorite, book 1. Then Catching Fire, book 2. Then The Mockingjay, book 3. Then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, book 4. I don't know where Sunrise or The Reaping is gonna come in. I'm hoping it's the best one. It's gonna be kind of hard to top book 1, but I'm hoping that it's super super good. So I'm just kind of gonna go through what I thought about the series as a whole, and then I'll kind of jump into the books. So as a whole, while the plot is gruesome and cruel when you really think about like what's actually happening in these books on these pages, like it's cruel, it's barbaric. But I still, like, as I'm reading it, I still found enjoyment in reading it. You had the people that you wanted to root for. You had themes of like rebellion and overthrowing a government. You had themes of like rising up in an underdog, somebody that you could see yourself in one of these districts. You know what I mean? Like, there were 13 districts in the capital, and you could see yourself being a part of one of the districts. Some people, I'm sure, could see themselves being a part of the capital too, but that's a whole nother story. But you had people to root for. You had a common enemy, or the book villain that you could kind of push against. You had romance in there. You had action. You had some thought provoking themes. You had societal issues. You had themes of censorship and mass surveillance, kind of like 1984. You had kids and adults and like parent relationships with their kids and just all kinds of things in his friendship. You had survival and what it really meant to like deal with a traumatic life-changing experience and then go back to like where you were. You'll never be the same, and that was so clear in these books. I appreciated it. I like how that was like a central theme. All of these books are really good in showing like the duality of a character or the duality of human beings, period. Like, you could be operating on pure survival instincts in this area. You could be super nurturing on the same coin, just depending on the situation you're in and the environment. You can be super selfless in this area, and you could be super selfish in this area, and you're still the same person. Like, so I think I really appreciated how that kind of was conveyed throughout the book, especially in the main character. Like, you saw that in other characters too, but you also saw that in Katniss, the main character. You saw how she was very selfless and self-sacrificing on this hand, but she was also selfish and kind of like And I know people might not agree with me, but I saw her being selfish and I saw her being very selfless and self sacrificing. I saw her operating on pure survival instinct, and I saw her being like super nurturing and kind of softer. You know what I mean? So I appreciated that. I saw her being forgiving. Then I saw her being the opposite of forgiving, unforgiving. So I appreciated that because I feel like human beings, man, like depending on where you are, what's going around you, like what's going on around you and stuff like that, it all affects you differently. And sometimes you're just trying to survive. Like, yeah, like I could have time to be soft. I could have time to like do this and do that and skip to my loo and sing. But sometimes you just trying to survive and make it to that next day. You have a purpose that you're trying, a why that you're trying, like it's keeping you going. And that's all you got sometimes. And I think that was conveyed pretty well in these books. What I can say about these books, they had characters, check. Plot, check. um like world building, check. I felt like I was in Pan Am, like I felt like I was there, like I felt like I was there. That was great. You had a character that you can kind of attach to, whoever that might be in this. You had like this sense of where you might be in this whole entire world. You know what I mean? You didn't have this overly complicated, super eloquent prose. You didn't have that, but you had really strong storytelling. It was still written well. I mean, like it was written well. I think I like her as a writer from what I've seen. I haven't read any of her other stuff, only the Hunger Games series, and I could say I really like that. But yeah, you had like it had all the makings of a really good book. You know, you were invested. So the first book in the Hunger Games series, and I think every book did this, but I it especially caught my eye in the first book, where you could really see the progression of emotions that the tributes went through. Like you could see every stage of grief and trauma and like recognition as they went on from like before, since they were born, not even at the point of the reaping, but like from the time they were born, this world that they were born into. Every year, like where you have to do, just you can kind of just see how that builds up. And then if your name gets called, then when you're actually in the Hunger Games in the arena, then the aftermath of that, if you survive, like they did a really good job of showing that progression of realization, emotion, um, just reconciliation, like all of that. That was conveyed really, really well, and I felt like, I felt like, yeah, I can definitely see how you can go through each and every one of these emotions that's being conveyed because, like, yeah, like rightfully so. And let me just say this. I've been online and I see a lot of people don't like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I did. Like I said, it was my least favorite out of the series, but I've seen people literally call this book trash and like it's not worth their time. I would disagree. I found it very helpful to see again that duality of President Snow before he was President Snow, Corio. I found it helpful to like see how he became who he became. We got to see every other character and how they became who they became, except Haymitch, which we will. Next book, Sunrise of the Reaping, will be his story of when he was actually in the Hunger Games. But I found it helpful to see like how did he get here? It was, and this was the only book in the series. Like the first three were told from Katniss's point of view, first person. This book was actually told. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was the only one that was actually told from third person point of view. But I feel like I understand why. Like you got to kind of take a step back and instead of I just feel like I would rather that one be in third person point of view. So I think that was a really good decision on the author's behalf. I felt like you could see the like him spiraling out of control, and it was a little slower than the other books, and maybe that's why people don't like it. Some people even said it was unnecessary. I enjoyed it. if you're like if you read books 1 through 3, like why not just read this one too? That's the way I felt, and I'm glad I read it. But again, I liked each book a little less than the book before it. So we'll see where Sunrise of the Reaping falls when that comes out in March of 2025, because I will be reading that. I'm very excited. I liked Hamish as a character, so I'm excited to see what his story was. I'm hoping it's from his point of view. I could understand if it was like from a third person point of view, but I'm really hoping it's from Hamish's first person point of view. So, yeah. Before I wrap up this video, I just want to talk about like, and I know I've talked about this in other videos too, but I really want to talk about how where we are in life really changes how we interact with the text and with the book at the time that we're reading it. So if I was to read this series when it first came out, yes, I would have appreciated like the artistry to a certain degree. I feel like I would have been more focused on superficial themes as opposed to like the deeper themes that I was thinking about when I was reading this book. I wouldn't have like seen it as a reflection of a future society today, like real life. I don't think I would have actually made that reflection or kind of even that contrast. But I still would have enjoyed it, but I just don't think I would have gotten what I got out of it right now as somebody in my 30s, you know? So, and I think about this a lot of times when I read books, like, especially classics. Like, sometimes I feel like I might not even appreciate it now. Like, if I reread it in 10, 15 years, what else would I get from it? You take your experiences, the victories that you're currently dealing with. Like, even if I would have read this in 5 months from now, you know what I mean? How would my circumstances and my environment shape what I'm actually reading at the time? I think it has a lot to do with it. Like I said, your victories and the struggles that you're dealing with at the time. Like, I just feel like so much goes into our outlook and how we interpret what we actually read on those pages, you know? So I know somebody mentioned like they have no need to reread books, and I get it because there's so many books out there you can read. It's like, why would I reread this? But I always find value in rereading stuff. Like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, for 2025, I'm going to reread some of my original books that got me into reading. So, like I said, when I was 12, I read The Secret Garden, and I want to reread it to see, one, if I could kind of identify what initially captured me, and two, like, what do I get from it now that I did not get from it then? You know what I mean? Do I still feel the way that I did? Is there a sense of nostalgia? And I say all that to say, I'll probably reread book 1 of The Hunger Games. I won't reread the whole series, but I probably will reread it at some point, because I just wonder. It's one of those books where I wonder how my perspective will change. Like, what will shift when I'm reading it? What will I catch this time that I didn't catch last time? What are some things that really stood out to me now that I could care less about the next time I read them, you know? So that's all I wanted to say. I know that was a little rant at the end of that. But overall, I like the Hunger Games series. Book 1 was my favorite. Let me know in the comments which book was your favorite. Let me know if you like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I see a whole lot of hate for it online. And I feel like, you know, let everybody have their opinion. If you hate it, you hate it. But I enjoyed it. Less than the other books, but still. So let me know what y'all think in the comments. Are you going to read The Sunrise of the Reaping when it comes out in March 2025 or not? All right, y'all. See ya.